A senior Pacific academic says Pasifika leaders and community members in New Zealand will need to speak up in order to be heard by the incoming New Zealand government. The final election results are in, and National no longer has the numbers to govern alone with the ACT Party, meaning they'll need Winston Peters' New Zealand First Party to form a majority. The results also confirms there'll be no Pacific representation in the next government. National's Angie Nicholas, who hails from Rarotonga, had been leading in the Te Atitu seat before special votes were counted, but she lost it to Labour's Phil Twyford, who got 131 votes. Neva Chittick spoke with Auckland University's Associate Dean of Public Health, Sir Colin Tukuitonga, about the final results.
Oh, somewhat predictable, I suppose. I mean, special votes has always tended to favour the left, so to speak, so not surprised that the National lost 2 seats, and pleasantly surprised Te Pāti Māori has picked up more seats. But in terms of the Pacific representation in the government, obviously it's a concern. We have no one and unlikely to have any ministerial portfolios that represent Pacific people. So not very good, I have to say.
Why is that representation at ministerial level so important?
Oh, that's where the decisions are made about budget for education or budget for health, or particularly, for example, Pacific health providers would depend on a champion in cabinet to argue their case for whatever it is, diabetes or children's health. And it's not just health, it's also education. It's so important to have a strong voice or voices in cabinet, and clearly there is unlikely to be a Pacific voice in the new government.
Do you think that then it will encourage more Pacific grassroots, whether it be community leaders or perhaps lobbying of the government to make sure Pacifica voices are still included in decision making?
Yes, totally. That's absolutely what needs to happen. We have to speak up. If no one is in cabinet to represent our interests, community leaders, credible Pacific leaders, community groups need to speak up. They see something unacceptable. They need to speak up, and they need to lobby their local MPs. I guess the point is that I think we did reasonably well with the Labour Greens government. We had a deputy prime minister even. So it does mean that we have to be a lot more active in expressing our needs, absolutely.
What were the biggest election issues for Pacifica in this particular election, do you think?
Well, I thought it was unfortunate, some of Seymour's rhetoric about blowing up the Ministry of Pacific People and disbanding the ministry and other ethnic-based ministries. I just thought his stuff was totally unhelpful and destructive. So one hopes that Chris Luxon and the National Party would moderate some of that nonsense from David Seymour. People say all sorts of things about Winston Peters. The fact is that Winston has a heart and an understanding of Pacific people. He's very popular in the region, Winston Peters, and it's something that I hope would bring some common sense to the whole decision-making process of the new government. New Zealand clearly has a big part to play in development and aid assistance to the islands. I understand, for example, that Chris Luxon is not going to the Pacific Island Forum, an important event. Our people flow backwards and forwards, and we can't just look at what happens here in Aotearoa. We have to be aware and be thinking about what happens in the wider Pacific region as well.